Welcome to the new professional StarCraft 2 with the 9-time GSL champion, the Terran in the blue, the man, the myth, the Maru. Facing off against the fastest player in the game, the former world champion, the Zerg in the red, the Italian stallion. We have Reynor in a best-of-5 Terran versus Zerg showdown as part of the GSL CK tournament on the new StarCraft 2 balance patch. And before we get started, incredible. Could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. That'll be kind of the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,867 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As the Reaper just ignores the Queen, despite the fact Reynor went pool first in order explicitly to get a Queen out to deal with this first Reaper. But with the 8-worker start and the nuances thereof, which made me sound very fancy and nuanced, by the way. Anyways, but the Queen can only mildly inconvenience the Reaper while the Reaper just runs circles around it. And Maru, of course, despite everything, despite the changes, the arguable risk, he saw a third hatchery and we'll build a third command center back at home. Brenda bounced to the corner and chicanerous and deplorable. Not now, not game one, Brent. Just ignores the Zerglings and the Queen. One will be flanked and taken out, but 2 drones dead and several Zerglings, and the Reaper still intact, so Maru not intimidated by the early defense, realizing there's not going to be Zergling speed anytime soon. And, well, the biggest buff, and the biggest change in the patch is not the 8-worker start, the cutting 4 workers off and making us start the video a few more seconds in, but instead is the larva buff for Zerg. The 3 larvae you build out of a hatchery, well, maximum of 3. The OGs, not larva inject, not the eggs popping off from the queens, but instead the ones that are naturally, organically free trade production, are now 9.5 seconds to respawn, as opposed to 10.7, which is over 10% faster, thus contributing to a significant amount more production, especially once you have several hatcheries. I don't think it's a big difference very early, but as you get to 3+ hatcheries, it starts to add up, and it really starts to kick in around that 50 to 60 drone mark once you have your baseline economy, because you still have to pay for drones and Zerglings. All right, they're not free, but getting to that economy and getting to that position is significantly easier by most measures. Now, at the same time, Zerg does have to get a lot of housekeeping done, I guess you could say, when it comes to starting things off. You gotta have queens, you gotta have hatcheries, you gotta have the spawning pool and extractors and all that, and that's why Zerg very rarely goes for these heavy gas builds, instead favoring just a single gas early and as many queens and lings as you can afford, which is a lot more if you're not splitting your resources like that. Now, on the other side, Terrans got away mostly scot-free from dramatic changes in the patch. Besides, of course, as always, which seems to be a trend at Blizzard, is completely reworking the Ghost. As StarCraft Ghost has always been a bit of a white whale, but the Ghost has less HP, down to 100. It's 3 supply instead of 2, bulked up again. But it has more range, more base damage, and snipe can no longer be interrupted. But it does cost 75 energy. So Fungal will no longer kill the Ghost, or kill the snipe, rather. Killing the Ghost is the only way to interrupt the snipe, like most things. Like and subscribe for existential dread. But so far, Maru, he walked forward with just a bunch of Marines, because of course he did. And are those 1-1 you thermal? Maru's upgrade rush. And, well, that's not as quick as you could get it, but it's about, well, I don't know. He went for the upgrades before, I believe, the factory even. So using almost his first gas to get Stim. No, he got the upgrades before Stim. Stim is faster than 1-1. So upgrades first. And Reynor, who's worried more on the domestic front, Maru could start 2-2 before Reynor starts 1-1. And he will. The Carapace upgrade has begun, but Reynor does not have +1 melee. So Indeed, Maru is opening up a potential 2-upgrade advantage, which is dramatic. Especially in this matchup, where the upgrades kind of define almost every single fight. It is very relevant, especially to things like Marines and Zerglings, since the damage and counter damage adds up so quickly. The Marines, of course, taking their drugs to shoot faster. And the Zerglings and Banelings trying to survive as many of those hits as possible to close the distance. And having just a slight advantage compounds incredibly quickly, just because of the sheer, how important it is to get a critical mass of units to either defend against the Marines or cut through the Lings and Banes. And Maru, of course, focusing on that. Reynor, on the other hand, going a bit more wide than he is tall, as the Italian Stallion is, honestly, him and Solar, more than Cyril even, I think benefit from this sort of patch. More larvae on your hatcheries. Instead of focusing on having the perfect endgame composition, make Zerg swarm again. And it really does feel like they can do so. Now, you can have your arguments about whether it's too much, but it certainly feels very thematic. Unfortunately, he didn't see this one come. The creep tumor is not spread far enough. Creep spreads a little bit slower, but also recedes slower, which I think in most cases is a buff, but could also be seen the other way. Meanwhile, the double-double, the drop down the center, and now the medevacs have the hot pickup key. Well, so do all dropships, but which one matters most? Let's be honest here. But the load nearby units key for, well, putting the vac in medevac, and is something, if you actually play the game, there are dozens of us, you should hotkey right now if you haven't. It's one of the biggest quality of life updates that technically doesn't affect balance, but let's be honest with ourselves. Maru already using it and getting that extra split second to micro and more reliably pick up certainly will help with the efficiency of the Marines, which is going to be important because Reynor's nearly maxed out. He has Hydra range, but Maru already has 2-2 done. The army supplies are near even. And Reynor can't go any further. He's got the hive. It's already begun. And he's definitely having some fun. But Maru is not one to be outdone. And he said, you've had your day in the sun. And now, Marines and Mines and even some Marauders. Right down the center. Plenty of bandwidth go. Hydra speed, the upgrade advantage is there, but he's going right into a concave of creep. The Widow Mine's trying to thin the wheat from the chaff. The Marines helping to gun down the Zergling so the mines don't get triggered too early. And Reynor refilling immediately, but the reinforcements are coming across and the upgrades are really kicking in. The medevac's draining on energy. Maru micros back. A beautiful split. I can't believe it's not butter. And, well, off the creep, retreating back. More Widow Mine's taken out. The Overseer's a little out of position. And a whole clutch of Banelings is taken down, and Maru will drive the Zerg back onto the creep. Clearly making the difference here, but with the Marines and Marauders and Autumn Cutters, he has to pick up and get out, and the reinforcement's going to be cut off. One medevac knocked out of the sky, and Reynor refills before Maru can press the advantage. But Maru has already started his 3-3. Reynor has not opted for any hive tech upgrades or units. Well, it was true at the start of that sentence. But by the end of it, 2 Vipers, adrenal glands, and he's closing in on 2-2. So Reynor, with a pretty huge income advantage, clearly, having those extra 10-12 workers and a base to work with is, well, nothing to scoff at. But Maru does have 4 bases. He's been untouched back at home. The 2-2 upgrade's closing in. And that's such a key time. There's going to be about 30-45 seconds before Maru has the upgrade advantage yet again. And he doesn't have any further tech to follow it up. No Liberators, no Ghosts, despite all that pontificating earlier. And the Banelings close in just as the upgrade's complete and take a big bite and melt through the Marines. The reinforcements down the center. Hydra Lunge is on the way. +3 melee and Carapace begin immediately. And Maru, with the Marines, Mines, Marauders, and medevacs, the M&M and M&M might not be enough to maintain the momentum, as Reynor's meticulous micro and his meandering macro just modifying the Zerg, and a bit of melancholy sets in. As Maru, well, no Ghost Academy, But at the same time, if you're up against Hydraling Bane, it's not exactly a priority. The Marauders standing their ground so the Marines could retreat. The Widowmine's taking out huge chunks of Zerglings down the center. The Ghost Academy has begun. And remember, there's no further tech from Reynor. He just has the Vipers. He doesn't have a Lurker Den, nor an Ultralisk Cavern. Let's forget about even thinking about Aspire. What a sentence. Well, and Parasitic Bomb quarantines one medevac. Widowmine slams home. Not enough energy for really anything else. The Marauders, but there's so much Zerg. The Marines trying to retreat back. Hydra Lunge is completed. He can close the distance a little more quickly. The Widowmines on the Banelings. And finally gets a connection. But does he have the reinforcements to retreat to? The Zerg just seem to be endless. But Maru continues going down the center and driving the creep back, but he can't get any further forward. He does have a 5th command center, very importantly. And the income gap has certainly narrowed as Reynor goes from almost a full base of additional mining to a marginal advantage. And overall, definitely not losing. Well, Zerg in these late game scenarios really struggles to be cost effective, or at least historically has. But now, with this sheer amount of units, it seems like he's got what he needs to keep it together. And tries to run. The Vipers are chasing, maybe a little bit too far. Maru, let's just go to the Maru camp for a moment. As keeping control of things, the Zerglings reinforcing, stimming back home. The attack to the top left corner. This is the first counter-attack out of Reynor for 13 minutes of the game. Maru has kept so much pressure on, but he's been unable to crack into any of the bases besides the ones the initial drops are able to take out. Dealing with everything. Top left corner. More production. Down the center while all this is going on. Quarantines some of the medevacs. Gets away with the others. Catches an infestor and a queen simultaneously. And Maru just tearing through everything right now. Back to everyone. Another couple Widow Mines. On the side. Hydras. Whoa, the Marauders are not going to be enough to deal with this many Hydras. Especially with 3-3 melee attacking Carapace. I keep stressing the upgrades. And the upgrades are definitely stressing Maru out. Now that Reynor, he doesn't have the ranged attack upgrades completed yet, but they're not nearly as important as that melee attack for Lings and Banes. And of course, the Carapace all around. 4 Ghosts in production, building armor, about to complete. Which means Maru has retreated somewhat into his shell, and we may see a demonstration of the power/weakness of the new Ghost. Much like the old Ghost, but you know, had a bit of a makeover. Reynor has survived. It's cost 350 Zerglings, a Widowmine drop, Drilling Claws, and no static defense here. He has to deal with this. Another attack attempted, a Summoning Circle of SC... What? Terran vision is based on movement. But I like moving. And the Infestor underneath... he's right-clicked on it. Does he see the worm sign? I don't believe so. There are no missile turrets, but there are 5 more CCs on the way. More CCs than a poorly formatted corporate email chain, or just email chains in general. You know, both. And a fusion core as Maru heads all the way up the tech tree towards the very top tier. And Jimmy, thank you. 2 more starports as well. Liberators and Ghosts. Maru not half-assing this tech switch. Full-assing right now. In a good way. It's a good thing. As he takes out the base of the top left. Let us be clear, in case you thought it was an insult. No, instead, I gotta appreciate how committed Maru is to the idea, as the production tab is only filled with the late-game dreams of Terran. 2 command centers, 3 orbital commands, 3 Widow Mines, 4 Liberators, 1 advanced ballistics, and 1 nuclear missile. And a partridge in a pear tree. The variety pack of Terran super late game. And the things that Zerg dreads to deal with. Really anything on that list, but all of them combined? Reynor desperately wants to get the damage done before Maru reaches this point. But we'll see. The Ghosts out in front. The Banelings an existential threat. A scan. He scans on top of his own army, knowing that the Infestor is a likelihood. And Parasitic Bomb on one of the medevacs, dodges out of the rest. Widow Mines, another connection thins out the Banelings. And the building armor will help the planetaries weather the rest. You're going to need a lot more acid to neutralize those bases. And, well, the Hydras, Maru stims into the Banes, just completely and utterly disrespecting the army off of creep. And the Ghosts are actually better against Banelings, because unlike your mother, Banelings are not light units. Okay? She's been slimming down lately, as we went the wrong way with it. But, Banelings are not light units, but Hydras and Zerglings are. So Ghosts, as an auto-attacking unit, yes, they still have the sniper rifle, by the way, are actually slightly worse in many ways against Lings and Hydras. Though with +3 attack, they still have enough damage to two-shot Zerglings. So it's a little less relevant there, because it scales with the amount of damage that each attack does. But here we go. We got the Ghosts on the back line. He yanks out some of the Liberators. The Planetary still firing throughout all this. The Ghosts off to the left side. The Banelings rolling through, but the Ghosts will split. The Marines and Marauders are not enough to stop them. The Banelings crashing through. Medevac's taken out. The Ghost count. Well. Meanwhile, an attack on the left side. A successful strike out of Reynor as he cuts down the Ghost to, well, he kills 6 of them. He takes out the Planetary, but he loses so many Banelings. A whole bunch of Hydras and another wave of Zerglings. A nuclear launch as Maru. Reynor? Does he see it? Reynor? He had to have seen it. He just selected something there. Reynor, watch out! Oh, no. Oh, the inject at the last second. The nuclear missile lands. And Maru already had another one on the way. 17 drones dead. The real weakness of having this many bases is not easily being able to check them. And he missed it. It looked like he just injected that hatch, but he could have done that so quickly. 17 drones dead, and that definitely kills the momentum of any sort of follow-up push. He replaced the drones. He used an entire round of production on it. And Maru's nuke, as nukes often do, quite a dramatic shift in the state of the game. And now Maru, he has 9 Liberators, 10 Ghosts. There are 120 Zerglings. Reynor, he still is holding on to his bases. And he still has plenty in the bank. He just finished up a Lurker Den. Only now working on +3 ranged attack. Maru shuts the door in his face. Reynor gonna try to tear it down. We drop the depots. It's already a little bit late. The Liberators with a Venn diagram of freedom. The Planetary finishing mid-fight. He lunges away. There's a secondary wall, of course, towards the main. Maru still has 75 SCVs, though Reynor gonna cut down on that number somewhat. And honestly, it's a bit high at this stage. When he has 8 orbital commands, it does seem a little gratuitous. He's gonna drop a half stable of mules. Scans to deal with the burrowed Zerglings that are scattered throughout. The Zerglings are still in the main. Another attack into the Planetary down the center. And the Zerglings will easily surround and rip it apart. Liberator yanks it out. And overall, well, another Planetary, more orbital commands. Maru continues rebuilding. He still has enough Marines and Marauders to potentially split off and snipe off bases. But Reynor is starting to make a lot of progress. He's taken his half of the map, and anything past that is decidedly more than playing fair. 676 Zerglings. Maru brings a Raven out. One of the only players... Oh, so there was a slight buff to the Raven. It no longer takes target priority over Marines and Marauders. But that might actually screw over Maru, who is one of the best Raven users. But if you select a group of units, it's no longer first all of the time. But the Liberators, on the other hand, really the most important point here, as Maru just stimming his way forward kind of annexes that base. And Reynor just builds another round of Lings and Banes to help deal with it. His bank is draining. He's actually supply blocked because he's lost so many Overseers. And Maru seems to be almost undeterred. He's barely slowed down his expansion. He's lost bases, but it's cost Reynor so much to do so. The Ghost trying to find a nuclear opportunity here. He takes out the Widow Mine and gets a Ghost for free, which is a weird package deal we're offering nowadays. Meanwhile, the attack to the left side. Reynor actually starting to flounder a bit, as it seems like struggling to deal with this idealized Terran army. But here comes Reynor. The Liberators are marching forward. Reynor can't afford many more losses like this. It's becoming desperate. You might be like, well, he's got 200 supply. He's mined out of 4 bases. He's only mining off of 2. Maru is pretty comfortably mining off of 3. He has the income lead as the mule peaks in the sky. The Vipers, EMP washes over most of them. Widow Mines try to save the day. Will take a big chunk. Yanks out the Liberators. And the Marines, Marauders stimming up. He's entirely off of creep here. The Raven out in front of everything. Anti-armor missile could help out, but keeping the Ghosts alive helps the most. The Venn diagram of freedom is holding the Liberators, or holding the Hydras at bay. The Banelings can't retreat that way. The Liberators will take them out with ease. And Reynor drives back. Well, Maru drives back the Zerg, and Reynor is looking at a loss for dealing with this. The Liberators sieging up. Reynor's refilled. More Hydras. More Infestors. But Maru, he's got Caduceus Reactor for that medevac energy regen. The Vipers mostly survived this engagement. But Maru holds. And Reynor is unable to break the base. He's out of money. Both of them, technically. But only one of them has mules dragging minerals out of relatively fresh bases. And I think Maru may have done it. No. There's still time. This is Reynor's last meaningful army. If he doesn't get critical damage here, maybe some microbial shrouds to reduce the damage across the board, but really the issues are the smorgasbord of Liberators and Widow Mines with the Ghosts behind. The Marines and Marauders are dangerous, but they're definitely not the most dangerous. The Widow Mines will burrow. The Liberators are sieged up facing the wrong direction. Reynor just runs them around. Liberators sieging up on top of themselves. There are all the spellcasters. We've got Infestors and Vipers, but EMP on most of the Infestors. The Banelings. Fungal actually catches some, but the energy's gone. Microbial Shroud, it does nothing. The Ghosts line up their shots, knock the Vipers out of the sky. Parasitic Bomb doing terrible, terrible damage. But Reynor has nothing left. Maru just tearing right through him. And he's broke. He's dead. And he's down 1-0. Maru claims game number 1. With, after 900 Zerglings, countless Banes, at least 165, 9 hatcheries dead. Maru just putting on a clinic, a grand master class in late game Terran versus Zerg. And while Zerg may be stronger, before we get to that stage, there were no buffs that help Zerg deal with a well-positioned Terran. And arguably the Ghost is stronger itself, but that is an argument that is continuing. So, Maru proving that the late game style of Terran is still very much plausible. We'll see if Reynor allows him that opportunity again. Well, what could he have done more? Reynor did not commit to a timing. He just continued. I think it was partially set from the early game. Maru went for 2 Reapers, and then he built like 2 engineering bays and 2 command centers. Well, maybe the command centers first, but getting the upgrades made sure that Reynor, if he didn't have a tech advantage, you just have worse units. Even if you have like 30 more supply of Hydras and Lings, Maru's not going to get caught out of position. At least not often. And his Marines and Marauders were obviously incredibly cost-effective. So, giving us quite a game. Reynor with a 13. Oh, he did an extractor trick with the Overlord. And with the larva being quicker, it's So the reason you usually do the extractor trick is turning a drone into an extractor to convince the supply bean counter that you actually have less than you do. And then you cancel it, and you get the drone back, thus being at 13 out of 12, for example. And is usually used to sneak another drone or two, or maybe get a queen in a pinch when you don't quite have an overlord done, in order to make sure you're not wasting your larva, which is actually a greater risk because your larva spawns faster. Like I mentioned, you still have to have the money to spend it. And that's what Zergs are trying to work out. It's really a problem of your steak being too juicy and your lobster too buttery, but it is, to an extent, a problem. Because if you don't use it, you do lose it. I know that's pretty common wisdom, but sitting there at 3 larvae languishing is just a complete waste. And almost every Zerg build order revolves around preventing that scenario. So, once again, Reynor doing that with the extractor trick into the hatchery first this time around. Maru showing that he is determined to do 3cc no matter what. Well, okay, last game you saw Reynor was going for 3 hatch with a late gas, which means you can probably get away with the 3rd CC. But I see a lot of back and forth. You know what? The most interesting part of the new patch is debating these things, especially with the new worker start. And the larva, of course, is it worth it to early expand? There's also another quirk that's worth pointing out. Is while bases still have the same amount of minerals, it was reverted from the increase, the distribution is changed. The large mineral patches, the ones closer to the base, now have 1,600, and the small ones 1,100. Actually, this might have been the version before, but what that means, before it was 1,800 and 900. So that means that your base will mine out at around the same time, but you can use more workers productively. So once you run out of the first 4 mineral patches in the previous patch, then you can only really use 8 to 12 workers. 2 is most efficient, technically up to 3 is fine, if you got nowhere else to go. Now, the state at which that happens is significantly later. You've got another... So drones mine between 50 and 60 minerals. We're not factoring mules into this because they break everything. Drones mine between 50 and 60 minerals per minute. You got 2 drones on a patch. You got 300 more minerals. Well, bada bing, bada boom. We crunched the numbers and came up with you should like and subscribe. But, that's 3 more minutes of mining. Give or take. For another 8 drones at a base. Or SCVs. And this is kind of a soft nerf to mules. To an extent. Because mules can mine over the top of SCVs. They do not affect the SCV mining rate. So that means that the other races especially can mine efficiently without having to expand quite as quickly. Though Terran still benefits from it as well. It's just they don't get the extra advantage that mules sometimes give with a fresh base as much. Though clearly mules are still very, very, very good. And critical for Terran early economy, because their workers just build slower, relatively. And so far, 7 Zerglings have challenged the early Reaper Hellion. Maru, of course, has 3 command centers, because why wouldn't he? But, again, it's going to be... So, the engineering bays are after the starport is already on the way. This is more of a 3-2-1-1. With, wait, 3 command centers, 2 barracks, and 1 starport in order to pump out those medevacs. Well, technically 1 factory, but that was kind of implied. Marines hanging out. The wall slowly coming together. 1-1 on the way for Reynor. Actually going to be quicker than Maru this time. We saw how important that was. Maru. Starts his 1-1. Thank you. I know he's looking at it. I saw him banking. He could have started one quicker and caught up with the other, but I think it's a matter of principle and also consistency to just get them both at the same time. Double medevac drop, but curiously empty of Marines. I think the timing hasn't quite been worked out yet. Only 13 or so Marines. The Queens. This is restricted lair space. Oh, very good. Very good, Lucille. Yay, it was my turn. Okay? Yeah, we agreed on that. I don't... Why does it sound like you're taking a tone? Doesn't everyone have a tone, technically? Yeah, but... Oh, shut up. Just saying. Shut up, Brenda. Shut up. Oh, sorry. I am blacked out for... Well, the Queens still holding it down. The creep tumors will be consistently gunned down by the Marines and sliced away by the Reaper Hellion. But a Zergling counter, the siege tank, he's going to try to draw in some shots potentially. But Maru retreats back on. A few of the Marines caught out and will get clawed apart. Meanwhile, Reynor sitting on about 70 workers until he had the unit count. And now adding a few more as the fourth base comes online. The lair's done. Battling speed is just begun. Maru is armory just a little bit late to add the 2-2 upgrades in a timely fashion. But Reynor, well, a whole lot of Ling Bang. Is he going to rush directly to Hive? He has not stopped at Hydras nor Mutas, which got a micro ability buff to an extent, but are still very much paper tigers when it comes to fighting against anything that can shoot back. Another double medevac. And there's the infestation pit out of Reynor. Not much slower than you'd see on the previous patch. The double drop. He spots the Zerglings. Very importantly here. He's just going to waltz on by? It seems so. The fifth base on the way, but Maru already has a fourth command center completing as well. 85 to 74 workers. We got another massive macro game on our hands. A hive begins just before 9 minutes. Meanwhile, Reynor's going to have a significant 2-2 melee attack and Carapace upgrade advantage, which can easily translate into total map control, especially once Hive completes. Maru trying to keep the pressure on, but... Oh, the Queens! And in their victory, will spew out some creep tumors. Who hasn't done that before? They knocked down one of the medevacs. Maru trying to stay on the map, but the map is starting to become a lot creepier than before. The Widow Mines scattered throughout. Drilling Claw's not quite done yet. Once it is, they become much more of a threat in the long term. But the Hive isn't there. Maru with a solid army supply, but the upgrades, that's the sticking point at the moment. +2 melee attack about to complete. The Widow Mines find some connections. The Marines on the run. The Hellbats caught out in front, but absorbing a lot of the fire, somewhat ironically. Meanwhile, more Widow Mines on the back line. Stimming forward, the Queens will hold the line. And Maru looking the other way. Oh, loses a chunk. The Widow Mines finds some. Drops out. Not ambitious enough. Meanwhile, Zerglings, a lot of the Marines have to be picked up again. Maru finds an opportunity. Reynor cut off the reinforcements enough to gun down the Zerglings. And Maru actually did find something here down the center. And Reynor will not be completely successful in the counterattack. There's no anti-air in this bottom left corner. No Queens nearby. The positioning is disgustingly good. There are a lot of ways that sentence could go, but the Queens! Get off my creep! I don't... But Susan, what the It felt good. I don't... Meanwhile, the Widow Mines actually knock the medevac out of the sky, but take 8 drones with it. A couple hero Marines in the main. A drop on the left is Maru, trying to get the damage done before the inevitable hive tech comes online. The Ultraless Cavern has begun. Adrenal Glands is on the way. The Widow Mine slamming through, but the Lings and Banes are easily replenished. The medevac is taken out by the now finishing Spore. The Widow Mine's dragged out. As Reynor keeps it together for now. Another drop in the corner. The Banelings gets the Spore Crawler. Little split at the end. Tries to maximize. Another drop. More drops than a Skrillex album right here, as the bases will not go untouched. What's in the back corner? A single medevac. Queen takes it out with a vengeance. A few of the Widowmines have survived. I don't think Reynor remembers about them, but the momentum continues as Maru keeps the pressure on. But he's only got +3 infantry weapons on the way. Meanwhile, Reynor has the Queen Wall holding the line. They pat each other on the back with some transfuses. Drags out the Widowmine and knocks the medevac out of the sky. Friendly fire isn't, and only a few survivors. The medevac will try to evade the Queens, but they're looking to intercept it. It may be able to take it out. Doubles back. And there are no ghosts on the way, nor an academy with which to train them. Chitinous Plate is over halfway done, and the Big Daddy Lisks could be an existential threat. The Marines, the Marauders, and the Mines will continue. But the Zerglings trying to file through, and... well, it could be better, could be worse. Widow Mines taking big bites out of the Zerg. And Maru is still maxed out. Like, this is... the fact he's able to keep up. The larva is clearly helping out, but... we're getting closer to that point. The thing is, Maru doesn't even have the Ghost Academy. He doesn't have the extra starports. Well, he might have the production. This is not an army that can just trade incredibly cost-effectively. It's blood for the Blood God, and blood and trade, and the Banelings are cut off by the Widow Mines, and more out in front, knocks out a Queen, another wave of Banelings behind. The Planetary is eliminated. Lings and Banes crashing through, and 16 SCVs with it. Maru looking the other way. The Banelings close in, and the Lings are overrunning the rest. The Queens take out the Liberator, and finally, it's all coming apart for Maru. He didn't have the momentum nor the position that he did in the last game. He didn't have the upgrades to use as an edge to cut through. He's been scrambling back and forth to try to keep Reynor at bay. But Reynor has turned the tables, flipped them more like. And I don't know if Maru can ever flip it back. The Widow Mines, this is just not an army that works well on defense. If Reynor is able to pin him up against his own walls, well, the Ultras are going to eviscerate him. And the fact that the Zerglings are able to run by it. Look at this kind of scatter plot of depots here. Very intentional. This isn't just using his controller to stab out some depots, but instead we saw it funneling the Zerglings. Just not quite enough. Clearly helping, but more Zerglings on the field, more Banelings. Reynor has not stopped. He will rule this map or see it burnt to ashes around him. 24 more SCVs dead. Supply down to 135. Reynor near 200. He's actually spent all that precious larva. The Banelings roll in. Annihilates another base. The Ultras are chewing through the SCVs. 39 of them dead. And Maru, I think, with them. One last attack. One desperate counter. Reynor does not have ultraless speed, which is a small issue. It truly is a small issue. That wasn't sarcasm. It's hard to tell, I know, sometimes. The Widow Mines, the Ultras, badly bruised, but there's infestors on the way. Another wave of Banelings. The counterattack will cut off what little is left of the economy. The Marines and Marauders with a good split, but it's not good enough. GG. Reynor equalizes the series 1-1. The difference, the upgrades, and Maru unable to maintain. That is a style. You need to be on offense. The best defense is by far a good offense. if you're not going for the full Turtle Terran. And he just couldn't keep it there. Reynor prioritizing the upgrades instead. So he skipped Hydras, which is a big risk because you don't have anything to outrange Widow Mines or to shut down Medivacs. But it was enough. And just the efficiency of the Ling Bane. That was the difference. Like, it was either get the upgrades, get Quick Hive, or go Hydras and kind of use that to stabilize. And there's no wrong answer there. At least from that perspective. Just like Maru going for the big game Marine Marauder is not the wrong answer to the Ling, especially to Ling Bane. It came down like 100% to execution. And Reynor just kept it together more strongly. And now we're all tied up. Which I'd expect from these two. I think historically Maru's gotten the better end of Reynor. And that's because of the clash of styles. Maru is, I'd say, significantly better in the late game. Well, the end game. As we saw in game number 1. The end game is when you've been at 200 supply. Now you got to figure out what a better 200 supply is. Whereas Reynor is probably the best at the late game. Like we saw there. Just speed and multitasking. Unrivaled. Constantly, like, it is inhumanly, somewhat puns intended, difficult to constantly have Lings and Banes and get creep spread and partition your units to defend against the drops like that and get any counterattack. All while still actually building up your economy. Because you have no, like, the Medivacs were just not dying. He just made sure the units underneath could not do enough damage to matter. And that is, it doesn't look easy, and it's harder than that. And that's phrasing. But we get a few moments of reprieve. As a few more with 8 workers to start every game, though you might be fooled somewhat by the ending builds. As it does seem, at least so far, that the professional players who played a certain style for sometimes over a decade have not completely shifted their builds or their style in the first week of a completely new patch. I do think. Now, the biggest difference is the more common pull first out of Zerg. On the previous patch, pull first is a big economic hit, even if it helps you defend. Just not having that second hatch and that second queen production facility was widely considered to be too much. Like, you need that. But now, with larva producing somewhat, it might seem counterintuitive, but because you can rely more on larva in order to be part of your production, you do not need to expand to a hatch first necessarily as quickly. Reynor's done so, which is a risk, but I think he's more qualified to take it than most. Dodges away from the grenades. So, we'll see some adjustments, but because you don't need those queens out as quickly, you can go pull first in pretty much any matchup. A 16 pull is where it's working out. With a quick you want to get a hatchery behind. Let's make no mistake. A hatchery as soon as possible, but it doesn't hurt as badly relatively because you can catch up somewhat later on. And of course, you can catch up if you don't have to, if you don't lose drones to Reapers or Adepts, which is slightly less likely and helps. Maru, third command center. Gonna try to match Reynor yet again on the field. Economically, the economic field. Also, probably the regular field. Just all of the fields. It's like it's Iowa here, but Liberator on the way. The highest reward for the least risk. Least risk. Sounds wrong. Is that English? Least risk. How does that sound? What's wrong with me? Like and subscribe so I can get help. Mental or physical. At least, no, that's right. That's the correct. Those are English words. Those are real human words. Give me, edit that out. We don't need to tell them. I don't. They're mostly humans. Double Evo. And notably Maru. Actually, getting, is that a second Liberator? Maru trying another flavor here. He's got the double engineering bay behind. So far, the series has been defined by those upgrades. The Queens are coming back. Reynor's very well aware of what's going on here. That doesn't mean he can necessarily stop it. Oh, the Queen pops out, but kind of slides away. Meanwhile, the Hellions, good Evo block. Gonna dodge to one side, cancel. Oh, no! The drones could get charbroiled, but he actually manages to box out well enough. And there was a moment there where disaster almost struck, but Reynor is able... apparently it did strike. And the game has now been resumed. Which, oof. I was wondering, we're seeing some kind of odd... I don't know. It seems... Well, that means that somebody either crashed or... figuratively or literally. Well, literally. Otherwise, you wouldn't be recovering from replay. But here we are. We don't wait for anyone. We do it live. Ish. Meanwhile, another Liberator. Just constantly denying mining. But... oh, he's gonna siege up the corner so the little Queen Toes can't do too much. The Queens, with enough energy for transfuse, can take on quite a heaping helping of Hellions. Meanwhile, Maru doing some quick push-ups on that starport, and then getting his barracks all spun up and good to go. Looks like the upgrades are actually slightly in favor of Maru, but functionally identical. Lair is on the way. As Reynor has been boxing this out. He's at 70 drones to Maru's 60 SCVs. But with a few mules dropped, Maru actually should have the slight advantage in income. It looks like indeed he does. The armor is on the way. So the upgrades could continue. That seems to be the game. Is who can get the upgrades in a timely fashion. The Queens scampering around. Churlish and insubordinate. They're gone, Brenda. Yeah. Were you gonna follow that up with something? No. Okay. Well, Baneling speed is on the way. A Mutalist Den in production as well. Might actually see the Mutas for the first time today. And, well, the Mutalist with a bit more forgiving micro potential. And, importantly, the Glaives now prioritize targets, aka units that can shoot back. Which is kind of a huge deal. Oh, the Baneling smashed. The Queens are holding the line. The Zerglings get into the base. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, it is an unmitigated disaster. Maru, the oldest and most devastating mistake. He let the door open. He left the door open. The Zerglings got in. He loses 20 SCVs. He gets no damage. He does not pass go. Good day, sir. And while he's not going to leave the game, I think it's just a matter of time, no matter how many mines, as the Banelings are cutting off the SCVs. Oh, no! And rolling right through the Widow Mines manual detonation.
He's dead, Jen.
Oh my god, he built Banelings in the base. 57 SCVs dead. Almost one in the last minute. Reynor just sweeps the leg. Maru turns to face him. And then Reynor just cuts off his head, melts it away. We never even got to see. The mutas never made it out of the production tab because Maru never made it out of that counterattack. Reynor with a decisive victory after 2 hard-fought back row battles. That one was more one-sided than a Mobius strip. And, well, the Liberator 3CC, it has potential, but it does feel like it gives up a lot of map control. Building 2 Liberators is very annoying for Zerg, but it is rarely deadly, as it's hard to avoid them being scouted. And even, unlike Banshees, you pretty much can always see them. It's just annoying to deal with. But game number 4. Reynor takes a commanding lead. As Maru, just a complete collapse. Though I have to wonder if that recovery from replay maybe threw him off. It's unfortunate. But the Zerg virus is spreading. First the ladder, and now to me. But give me, edit that out. That was, I don't know. We did mention like he's subscribing for the healthcare item. But pool first. I think Reynor, it's Maru on match point, which means the chances of proxy rags just rose by many percents. And well, it's not going to be, this is not some sort of all-in. This is just a defensive opener out of Reynor, which you run the risk of still being behind, though not nearly as much so as before the patch. Well, I do think the fact that the patch was pushed live after just a few days of testing, so far, I do think the larva buff is a crazy... There's a reason why not even David Kim in 16 years touched the larva spawn rate. It's such a fundamental part of Zerg. From literally the 0-second mark of the game. 99% of builds that don't involve an 8 pool, which is really dumb to try, but for many reasons I won't get into. But it's from the very beginning. Oh, Maru? Did he not see the Zerg? I need to go back. He saw the Zerglings, right? He chose to ignore them, but it's such a fundamental part. I feel like it could definitely be toned down and put Queens back to 150. We want to... Peace. Maru. Now, so it is just slowlings. He had to have seen that. Like, it's Maru. Why is it so quiet? Okay. Well. Some patch bugs here, but I'm not talking about the Zerg. The Reaper barely escapes, but he didn't see it. Oh. These are elementary mistakes, my dear Maru. I don't know. Whatever happened last game seems to have thrown him up. That he saw the Zerglings. That's unacceptable. That's why I'm casting, not playing. This game is stressful, but he saw the Zerglings. He had to cancel his command center. He lost 2 SCVs because he just didn't see them. Like, they were in vision, but the Reaper did not turn around. And they were only in vision for a quarter second. But at this level... there's no way he saw them and then took that much damage at home. He was completely unprepared. Though, unfortunately for Reynor, underestimating the strength of the Threeper counterattack, 2 drones dead. Reynor only has 23. Make that 22. Make that 21. Okay. Well, this ends up working out about as much as you possibly could hope. 6 drones dead. As always, I may have spoken a bit too soon. Stop right there, criminal scum. The Queen's finally put down that last Reaper. And Reynor takes some heavy hits here. He loses 7 drones, though he gets all 3 Reapers. Zergling speed is done. So, Maru, of course, 3cc. Why wouldn't it be 3cc? And wasn't enough damage. I swear this is way quieter. I don't know why. I'm losing it over here. Anyways. It's me who can't hear now, maybe. I apologize if for some reason I lost hearing in all of my ears. So that could really affect our sound balancing and maybe our game balancing too. Maru, you can't just do that. Maru, hello? You can't just build 2 engineering bays. You just handed it off. When they recovered from replay, it was Uthermal playing on the same account, which would explain a lot, but I don't know, that's like a backhanded compliment there, but double engineering bay before anything else. He got a barracks, he has a factory, 3cc, and then boom, double engineering bay. Which Reynor is not even close to matching. So, now the awkward part is Maru doesn't have nearly the economy to up his production as quickly as he did in the other games. So, he's not going to be able to get out on the map for quite a while. Reynor just comfortably droning. Maybe a bit too comfortably. He's up to 50 drones. He's going towards 60. Now thinking about the Evo chambers. But it's going to be another scenario where Maru is almost done with 1-1 by the time Reynor can start his. Which, now, quantity can have a quality of its own. That's what the Zerg are all about. But Maru, Reynor has not seen anything of Maru's side of the map since the initial Zerglings. It is Maru, so you kind of have to assume there's a 3rd command center, but Reynor at 55 drones. He is adding more. The Queens, the creep spread already good. The Zergling too cute to land on. We all know that. Too cute. Layers on the way. Armory is already done. Maru is 100% focused on those upgrades. Like, that is the build. The build is upgrades. Of course, you need units with which to use them. 2-2. 2 infantry weapons and armor. That's their full legal name. Thus, asking us the question of why are the infantry upgrades on the engineering bay and the mech upgrades on the armory? Does that make sense to you? Anyways, the Marines, stim again. Suddenly loud again. That's way louder. What the hell? We upgraded the sound. I have no idea. Back to fidgeting. Maru is up to 61 SCVs. And the fact he has 2-2 on the way, we're gonna see the Mutas. And this time around, it's almost certain that they will make it out of the production tab. How much do they get done past that point? Well, we will see. Way too loud. And here, at this rate. Second factory's on the way. And has Maru He doesn't know what he's dealing with, and it's unlikely he'll scout the Spire unless he actually makes it all the way to the 3rd. But the answer is going to be the same. It's going to be Marines and mines. The only thing that could go wrong for him is if he invests too much into siege tanks instead of Widow mines, which are certainly not as powerful against the mutas. Though in many ways, taking out the Ling Bane, they might help more. Slurps up the Marines. Reactors on the way. And Maru's spooling up. Now, Reynor not that far behind on the upgrades. He got up a 2-2. Still going to be a minute and a half advantage. But the mutas, of course, can help knock the Marines and medevacs out of the sky. Ideally with the Marines inside. The mutas trying to sneak their way across. There are no missile turrets. A few of the Marines left behind. The drop in the main. And Reynor will come back with the mutas to defend. I wasn't sure if he would try to counterattack, but this will give Maru the time he needs to put the turrets up. But of course, he will lose these medevacs, almost certainly. There's no teleporting to the other side of the map. The medevacs will die. And the missile turrets are on the way as Maru a mad scramble to put together some anti-air. Now the question for Reynor is how quickly, if at all, he decides to transition out of mutas. Or towards hive tech. Maybe not out of mutas, but to back it up. He's got 3 hatcheries on the way. 2 on location, 1 macro hatch in the main. 5 more mutas in production. Widow mines scattered throughout. There will be drilling claws. 3-3 has begun. Thors are here. And because Reynor does not have access to hive, he will be capped at 2-2 upgrades on the ground. Technically in the air as well. It's just he's a long way off that. So, it is very important to note that Maru will maintain that upgrade advantage that he's been working so hard on for the foreseeable future. Assuming he actually gets to 3-3, which, well, here we go. Infestation pit begins. Even more hatcheries. They're not quite the command centers in the production tab we usually see in the late game, which always feels a little weird that command centers are the thing you build so many of and not hatcheries, right? Like, but I digress. The Widow Mine. Huge hit. Wipes out a couple dozen Banes just like that. And Maru gonna use that as a springboard for the attack. And the major weakness is just a heads-up fight. The mutas have not been able to get the damage done. Multiple missile turrets in the main. The mutas will flap right in. And he just avoids the 2 missile turrets. There's the sensor tower. The Widow Mine's well hidden and slams a couple mutas out of the sky. The Lings in Bane still. He's got 36 Banelings. Adding a couple more mutas. The hive has begun. There's going to be about a 2-minute window before hive tech can kick in any fashion. And Maru's 3-3 finishing momentarily. This will be his best opportunity to get the damage done and set himself up either for a victory or for a good position in the end game. Clearing off some of the creep with the mutas. We'll clean out the army itself. The queens are with it. Juggling some Hellbats back. 3-3 about to complete. The Lings and Banes. 110 versus 122 army supply, and Reynor can't get any more. The mutas. Widow Mine still hits. Tried to micro away, but the Marines and Marauders caught to the north. Another drop, though. The medevacs, a little bit late. Finds maybe an angle to save the day. He needs the pickup, and he gets it. Oh, no. A few mutas caught, left behind. Adrenal Glands begins. The hive is done. Maru needs to keep the pressure on now, and ideally push through. 3-3 starts. And so does the timer. The mutas will clean up the medevacs, but Maru with the main brunt of the push through the center. The Thors to back it up. The medevac's already low on energy. Banelings crashing in. More Lings and Banes. Another wave. There's so many Banelings. There's no Widow Mine. He just evacuates the Thors and abandons the bio because flesh is weak and malleable. Ultralisk Cavern is on the way, as the Mutalisks have carried him this far, and the Ultras might be able to carry him the rest of the way. Reynor with 3,000, 4,000 minerals in the bank, though both of them under 1,000 gas. A scan will spot the Ultra Cavern. Spot adrenal glands upgrading. Maru knows he's on borrowed time now. He might have 4 bases. He might have even more command centers. He might be nearly maxed out. But there's so much Zerg. Oh, the Mutas! The Thors will drop out of the last second, but he magic boxes that stock position, that hold position, making sure the damage is minimized. And the Thors will be overrun. The Banelings crashing through. And Maru does not have the numbers. The damage is done. He drops mules very optimistically mid-fight, but the Zerglings are streaming through, taking down the missile turrets. Will rip apart the mules before they can return almost any of the minerals. That siege tank on the high ground, doing terrible, terrible damage. But the Zerg cannot stop. They will not stop. And Reynor looks poised to take one of his strongest victories over Maru. Well, in quite a while. The buffs to Zerg clearly helping out, but Maru maybe not having his best day. Some clear mistakes capitalized on. And Reynor firing on all cylinders. And fired up as well, it seems. The Muta into Ultra. The 3-3. And the Ultras this time didn't make out of the production tab, but Reynor with a decisive victory after a couple very hard-fought games. 2 on the other side, definitely tilting towards the Italian Stallion. He takes it 3 games to 1. So hopefully you enjoyed at least a fraction as much as I did. As Reynor showing that true Swarm Zerg is back in style. I do think Maru, well, you can't afford mistakes against a Zerg like Reynor, no matter which patch. And Reynor was able to translate into a victory quite quickly after Maru made some decisive ones. And even without them, it still would have been a tough road. But he certainly put some speed bumps in front of himself. But hopefully you enjoyed. And if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. Though I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. So thank you for watching. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Crazy Mouse, Mario, Soup. Glad you still enjoy. Make sure to check out this video. Jimmy picked it out just for you. I hope to see you next time. Hope I made your day at least a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.